guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you a very strange assortment of books for a book haul. Let me explain. This year I've been working really hard to not buy a ton of books. I just like the ones that I really want. Because of that, I haven't had enough books to make a book haul seasonally like I have done in the past. I plan to do like a middle of the year book haul. But then again, I only had like 5 books for that. So in July was my birthday. I did get a good number of books for my birthday. I feel like I now finally have enough books for a book haul. And it's a very strange thing because I've read the majority of these books because I've had them since January in some cases. I don't know if that's relevant to put in this video. I don't know if this is like, I just don't know what's happening right now. So this is my first book haul of 2017, which means you're going to get everything I bought from January until now. Strange video, strange book haul, strange assortment of things. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The very first book I bought this year was Windwitch by Susan Dennard. Do you want to know the synopses for these things? Because I've talked about these books in other videos because I've read almost this entire stack. You've probably already seen me talk about these things if you've been on my channel for most of this year. I don't know how to do this. This is Windwitch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchlands series, which is about 2 girls who are best friends, Safia and Iseult. Safia is a truth witch and Iseult is a thread witch. At the start of the first book, we are approaching the end of the 20-year truce. Because of that, they are about to fall into another epic great war. 2 main characters get wrapped up in it because of an accidental robbery. Okay, well the robbery wasn't accidental, but who they robbed wasn't their correct person. And that gets them wrapped up in this brewing war conflict. It's the second book, which mostly focuses on Merrick, who is a prince from one of the other kingdoms, and he is a wind witch. So he is a type of air witch. He can control the winds, obviously, because that's pretty self-explanatory. I can't say I'm excited to read these books because I've already read most of these, so I already read this, obviously. The next book that I purchased was Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken, which I've also already read, and I don't own a copy of anymore because I returned it to Target within days after finishing it because I hated this book so much. It's the second book in the Passenger duology, which is a time-traveling story about a young girl who accidentally gets taken back in time to 1776, where she meets this young African-American boy who happens to be involved in these time-traveling families that control the fate of time itself. They're trying to keep this device out of his hands, and Edda is very instrumental in that. Again, I don't own this book anymore because I returned it because I hated it a lot. After that, I picked up Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is another, I think, January release as well. This is a debut novel. It follows a young girl who has wanted nothing more than to go to Caraval, this magical circus game performance. And she finally gets invited right before she's supposed to be married off to a young lord, and her and her sister decide to go to have one last moment of freedom before the marriage. And while she's there, Donatella, her younger sister, gets kidnapped as part of the game, and Scarlet is forced to participate more than watch, which is what she was wanting to do in order to save her sister's life. Again, I've already read this. I read this one more recently. It's so weird to do a book haul and not say I'm excited for everything because I've read everything already. It's very strange. And then next on my pile, I have Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller, which is a debut novel about a girl who is essentially a teenage female version of Jack Sparrow. She is the daughter of a pirate king, and they are looking for these maps that have been distributed across the several different pirate families, and when you put them together, it leads you to this incredible treasure. And so she is sneaking on board a rival pirate ship to steal their portion of the map for her father. So she intentionally allows herself to be kidnapped, and it is amazing. I loved this book. After that, my next purchase was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Obviously, this is the third book in the what is the name of the series? A Court of Thorns and Roses. There we go. This is the final book in Feyre's story arc. We will be getting more books in the series, but not focused on Feyre and Rhysand. I don't even know what to say about this other than, yeah. It's about a young girl who kills a wolf in the woods one night as sustenance for her family. However, the wolf turns out to be a fairy, and it is illegal to kill the fairies in this realm. So because of that, the lord of this fairy that she killed comes across the wall to the southern portion of the continent, which is the human lands, abducts the main character Feyre and takes him back to his castle to serve as punishment for the murder of this Fairy. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The second one is a Hades and Persephone retelling. I don't think this third one is any type of retelling. This is the conclusion to that story. Whew, that book is heavy. After that, I purchased, what is this called? Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. It follows Lady Midnight. It is the third series in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. We follow our main characters Emma and Julian, who were introduced in City of Heavenly Fire, the last book in the Mortal Instruments series, 5 years later following the events of the Great War. So what has happened at the end of City of Heavenly Fire heavily impacts this series because it takes place 5 years later and it involves the fallout between the Shadowhunters and the Fae folk. Yeah, that's really all I have to say because it's like the 13th book in a series. Last book I have before we get into my birthday book haul section is Unraveling by Sarah Ella. This is the second book in the Unblemished trilogy. Sarah Ella was very kind to send me a finished copy of her second book, so thank you Sarah Ella and Thomas Nelson for thinking of me and sending me a beautiful finished copy, and I have already read this one as well. The first book, Unblemished, follows a young girl who is living in New York City, but unbeknownst to her is actually from a different world. It has to do with like parallel worlds, but in this book they call them reflections. She's from a very magical fairyland-esque second reflection. Her mom whisks her away to New York City when she was a baby to hide her from the second reflection's ruling elite. She was born with this huge birthmark on her face that she's always hated. It turns out that this birthmark is very instrumental in the saving of her homeland. And I can't give you my thoughts on these books because there's the book haul and that's not the purpose. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to book haul books that I've already read. This is so weird. So the next book I was sent from Trina from Between Chapters for my birthday, and that was so nice of her. So thank you so much, Trina, for thinking of me on my birthday and sending me a book. She sent me Rise of Fire by Sophie Jordan, which is the second book in the, what's it called? Reign of Shadows duology. It's essentially a Rapunzel retelling. We follow a young girl who lives in this world that is shrouded in darkness. It is ravaged by these zombie-like creatures, but they're not actually zombies, but they live in the ground. The main character, Luna, is actually blind. I have not actually read the second book, and it's been over a year now since I read the first book, so I'm kind of foggy on the details of the first book, but I do remember it ended on the craziest cliffhanger ever. I'm really interested to see what happened to a certain character at the end of the first book. It is a dual perspective one as well. We follow Luna, like I mentioned, as well as Fowler, who is this hunter character that is helping to guide her to this promised land type place. I'm really excited to read this one. I can actually say that this time. I'm really excited to read this one. So next stack here are all birthday books from my parents. We got a really good sale on barnesandnoble.com. I'm so excited for these because like I mentioned, I got them for my birthday. And although I've read majority of them, there are a couple in here that I have not yet read. And the first two are ones I haven't read. The first one being Camp Half-Blood Confidential, your real guide to the Demigod Trading Camp from Percy Jackson. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know how much I love Percy Jackson and Rick Riordan's books. And I will buy essentially any companion training guide thing book that he comes out with. I don't know if there's any like really pertinent information that you need to get out of this before you continue with the Trials of Apollo series, because this one technically came out between books 1 and 2, and that's probably where I will read it just to make sure that I have all the information going into the Dark Prophecy, but I'm really excited. Next on my pile here is The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, which is the second book in the Trials of Apollo. I read the first book last year, and I kind of actually don't remember anything that happened in it, so I'm definitely gonna have to reread that before reading this. This is the third series in the Percy Jackson world. So although it's not from Percy Jackson's perspective, he is still a character in the world. We follow Apollo, who was punished by Zeus at the end of the last book of the Heroes of Olympus series. And Zeus made him a conventionally unattractive teenager. And Apollo is like, what is this? I am a gorgeous god and I don't know how to operate society in this body. And I'm really excited to read this. I don't remember any of the premise for the rest of the book or series other than it's from Apollo's point of view. Next in my pile here is Geekerella by Ashley Poston, which I've also already read. But this is a like love letter to fandom. It's about a young girl whose father created this convention for their favorite TV show called Starfield, which is essentially a Star Trek-like TV series. They're about to get a reboot of the TV series as a movie. And the person who is cast to play her favorite character is a soap opera star, and she's just not impressed by this at all. And she writes a very heated article about it on her blog that catches the actor's attention. And then she goes to the convention to participate in a cosplay contest and meets the actor in person, but they don't like realize that they've been exchanging conversation over the internet on this blog post. Ooh, next on my pile is the book that I haven't yet read, and that is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. Damn it. This was in an Owl Crate box a couple of months ago. People were raving about this. I really didn't have any interest in it. I sort of had some interest in it because it kind of reminded me of Fangirl, and I enjoyed Fangirl, but I wasn't dying to get my hands on it until I heard all of the reviews and the amazing positive response that it got. Holy crap, no, I need this book. It was like what Fangirl was trying to be. I don't know, I was hearing amazing things, so I know I needed it in my life. My pile is When Dimple Met Rishi by, I finally figured out how to pronounce the author's name, Sandia Menon. Sandia Menon. This is a fun summer contemporary, and I was on a contemporary kick this summer, which is very uncharacteristic for me. I don't read a ton of contemporary. We follow two main characters, Dimple and Rishi, who are both Indian American, and they go to a summer camp for web development. She is going because she actually has an interest in web development and she wants to pursue that as a career, and Rishi is going to woo Dimple because Rishi and Dimple have placed in an arranged marriage, unbeknownst to Dimple, but with Rishi's consent. So he's going there to meet what he thinks is his future wife, and she's just going there as a way to get away from her family and to pursue her dreams outside of the Indian American like normal custom. And they meet and a lot of shenanigans ensue. No, you can't give thoughts on it. So oh my god, English is just really hard today. And then the last book I got for my birthday was The Progeny by Tosca Lee, which I've also already read. So even though I can't say I'm excited for all these books in this book haul, I can say that I am reading what I'm purchasing, which was a goal of mine this year. This is an adult thriller-ish novel. I don't really want to say it's a thriller because it's not really a thriller. It's like a adventure, treasure hunt type of story, kind of like the Da Vinci Code and National Treasure, that vibe. So an adventure story, essentially. It is adult because our characters are in their early to mid 20s, but it very much reads like a YA novel. Main character at the beginning of the novel voluntarily has her memory erased to protect very sensitive information from falling into the wrong hands. Our main character is a descendant of Catherine Bothary, who is a prolific serial killer from, I think, like the 1700s. She is rumored to have killed upwards of 600 people, was never convicted or tried for the murder of 600 people. Therefore, the family of her victims never felt like the victims were given proper justice. And so the descendants of the victims are hunting down Bothary's descendants to basically wipe out her bloodline. I say Catherine Bathory, it's Elizabeth Bathory. She's also known as the Blood Countess. And then the last four books I have here I actually purchased myself. The first one being The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall, which is the third and final book in the Conspiracy of Us trilogy, which is another conspiracy, National Treasure, Da Vinci Code-like story, but this one is definitely YA. We follow a young girl whose family has ties to like an Illuminati group, and she's not aware of any of this. And she gets whisked away at the very beginning of the first book to go meet her father's family because she's never known anything about them, and gets very tangled up in these ancient secret organizations and all of the strings that they pull in the world. Finds out that she has a very integral historic role in this society that she had never known before, and it was the reason why her mother had kept her hidden from them for so many years. I already read this one too. Next year I have Sweet Filthy Boy by Christina Lauren, which is the first book in a new adult companion series about three best friends who go to Las Vegas to celebrate their graduation from college, and while they're in Las Vegas they meet three boys who are on a vacation trip together, and they meet up, have a very wild, crazy night in Vegas. They wake up the next morning realizing that all of them are married to each other. And so the different companion books follows the fallout of that decision and how each couple decides to cope with being married to essentially a stranger. In this one we follow Ansel and Mia. Mia travels with Ansel to Paris to feel out what exactly this relationship could be. And this was recommended to me by Hope from Hope Ortego because I asked her for a really great, sexy, sultry, new adult summer read, and she gave me this one. And I'm super excited now to read the other 3 books in the series because I loved this one so much. Next, I have Firstborn by Tosca Lee, which is the sequel and concluding novel to the Progeny duology. I actually think it's like the Descendants of Bathory duology. I'm sad that's only a duology because I really want more from this world because I really loved the first book so much, but I am very excited to see what more we learn about in the second book. The fact that it's called the Firstborn, we learn a little bit about that title and what that term means in the first book, so I'm excited to see how that's explored and what the consequences of being a firstborn are. Last book ended on a really intense, crazy cliffhanger, and I want to know what the ramifications are of that cliffhanger. I'm super excited to dive into this book. Oh, there's a girl underwater in this cover. I just now realized that I hadn't ever seen that before, which is ironic because I looked at this like a million times. And the last book I have here is Black Hearts by Nicole Casterman. I actually picked this up at Book Swap at Booknet Fest. This is a book that I have been really wanting to read for a while now, but didn't really want to purchase because it's kind of had some mixed reviews. An origin story for Blackbeard, but I hear that it's way less pirate driven and more romance driven. Like there's a romance and a girl that drives him to piracy rather than like piracy driving him to piracy. I've heard that there's not as much swashbuckling action as people would have liked from this story. So knowing that it's more romance going into it, I feel like I'm going to like it more than people who are looking for pirates. I'm still very excited to read it. There was a sequel that came out recently. I'm really hoping that this is good. Even though it's technically not about pirates, even though it kind of is. I don't know. I hope that there's some piracy in it. I did a whole project about him in high school, so I know a little something about Blackbeard. I don't think I'm able to lift up this pile. I really don't. Oh dear Lord. These are all of the books that I have acquired so far in the year 2017 for my birthday, that I've purchased myself, that I've been gifted. It's a lot. I realize that, but this is literally the only things that I've gotten all year. So I feel like this is still a pretty manageable amount of books acquired in one year. If you've read anything from this pile that I have not yet read, I need to get on ASAP. Tell me down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!